Welcome to the second SYL virtual learning session this year. The topic today is personal branding. My name is Ashley Kennedy. I am the chair of the SYL committee and I work in the accounting department at South Central in Regina. I've been in the credit union system for 3 years now, and this is my second year on the SYL committee. We are excited to offer this virtual learning session today. Thank you for continuing to support SYL and taking the time to attend today's session. So today is meant to introduce and reiterate the importance of personal branding. Our retreat this summer also focused on personal branding. The retreat was a great success, and Janet Lee from the Story Co. did such a good job that we want to share her with the rest of the SYL community. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please use the chat function. We'll do our best to respond, and then we will be opening up the line for discussion throughout. So today I'm going to introduce the SYL committee, a bit of what we've been doing this year. We'll switch it over to Janet for the personal branding session, and then at the very end we'll provide some forward-looking into 2017. So throughout the session today we're going to have some polling questions. This is the first one. You should see a question pop up on your screen. Please respond to the question and then we'll share the results. So I think we've had the majority of us respond. I'm going to close the poll now and I'll share the results. So we have 75% said they have attended an event and 25% have not before. So welcome to the 25%. And again, thank you to the 75% for continuing to support SYL. So a bit of introduction to the committee. We have 7 members right now on our committee. If you recognize any of the committee members here, feel free to reach out to them at any time. Sorry, I'll just unshare that poll. So you, as I said, if you do know anyone on the committee, we ultimately are serving you as young leaders in the credit union system, so we want to be sure that we are adding value and addressing your needs with each initiative that we offer. The committee members we have are myself, Ashley Kennedy at South Central, Naomi Seaborg at Connexus Credit Union, Amy Bott at South Central, Brittany Helkyard at Crossroads Credit Union, Darren Enns at Luseland Credit Union, Chantal Durati at Affinity Credit Union, and Sheena Soki at Cornerstone Credit Union. So this is a bit of a reminder. We are seeking applications for next year's committee. With the turnover this year of our committee members, we'll have 6 positions available. And if you or any of your staff are interested in joining, the details here on the slide. We accept anyone age 35 or less at the start of the term. We've also made a slight change this year in that if you have years of experience plus your age, and together those two are less than 45, we will accept you as a committee member. If you haven't been a previous member and you have full support from your supervisor and you're prepared to work and commit to the team, we would love to have you. So there is an application available on the Scoop. We'll be sending out a reminder, or on the Keyniverse, sorry. We'll be sending out a reminder to apply for those again. You can always send an email to our email address here for any questions. The deadline to apply for the positions is December 1st. We'd like to take a reminder and pause to thank our sponsors. So on behalf of the committee, a big thank you to the credit unions who we received funding from in 2017. The initiatives that we offer are all due to their continued support. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Janet. We'll just take a minute here to get her presentation going. And Janet will take us through her session on personal branding.
Welcome, everybody. I am very happy to be here, and a big thank you to Ashley and Amy, who are technology wizards who are sorting me out. So many thanks to them. I love to talk about personal branding, and I have a bad habit of when I get really excited, I talk too fast. So please let us know in the chat line. Just say too fast, send googly eyes if you're glossed over and you don't understand what I'm saying. We really want you to be engaged in this conversation as much as we can. I'm not sure how far we're going to get. It's always a little hard to judge with a webinar, so any feedback you have for me, please fill up the chat lines if you like. So we're going to get started chatting about personal branding. And I'm going to give you a little history on why I became so interested in personal branding. And like you, I'm affected by brands every day. And I think it'd be fun for you to take a look around right now and see how many brands you are surrounded by. In the chat line, share some of the brands that you can see right now. I've spent over 20 years researching what makes us choose one brand over another. And even more importantly, what makes us buy it again, because repeat buyers are what we're looking for.
We do have some people coming in with brands.
Oh, yay. Okay, so let's see what kind of brands we've got.
So we have HP Computer, Tim Hortons, Adidas, Keurig, Starbucks, heavy Starbucks present.
EOS, so I'm thinking of lip balm, some Samsung.
Lots of different brands. Thank you for your contribution.
That's awesome. So we are a branded world. And today we're going to look at personal branding, but we're going to look at it from a marketing approach. So I've got a kind of fun little story and a good example of a strong brand that I thought might be applicable for Saskatchewan young leaders. Does anybody recognize this brand? Have you ever taken a shot of Jägermeister? Now you can either just shake your head or nod quietly or just acknowledge to yourself or let us know in the chat line if you've ever participated.
Well, we've got a you don't do it and an LOL.
So now the second question is, how many of you who have admittedly taken a shot of Jägermeister actually liked it?
I'm thinking Morgan's saying, unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a love it.
Oh, we do have people who love it. Okay, you are among the 5%. Jaeger sells $83 million a year, 83 million bottles a year, and only 5% of people actually like it. So clearly taste, which you would think would be very important for a liqueur, has actually nothing to do with why we buy it. However, the strength of their brand is undeniable. What creates these strong brands really fascinates me. I worked with many companies to get to the heart of their brand story and to translate that into a strategy for growth. And the special sauce, so to speak, for which brands really succeed has always lied in the strength of the personal brands of those who worked for them. If employees aligned their personal brand to the corporate brand, they were unstoppable because every single person knew how they added value. Sadly, the reverse was true. If those employees did not understand how they related to the corporate brand, they were not as successful. So in August, I was absolutely delighted to spend an entire day workshopping through creating your personal brand with SYL. Each participant completed an assessment that determined their brand archetype and also completed this nifty workbook that had us dive into creating your personal brand. There were some really powerful results. 100% of respondents said they would recommend this workshop to others. 100% said they would recommend it to their credit union, and 100% believe that creating your personal brand will positively affect your life and your work. What really reflected me is some of the comments we received, and I'm going to share one with you. And it said, when I got the results of this assessment, I was blown away and felt far too humble to be able to say those words that described me. Now I know that I have a lot to offer my organization, my members, and my family without feeling like I am bragging. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I could never put a price on the confidence you have instilled on me in just a few hours. Thank you. So you know, it really hits me that this is really important work. We hope to give you today some ideas on how you can get started creating your personal brand. We only have an hour, but we're going to do our best. So what is a personal brand and why do we have one? Why do we need one? If we look at some strong personal brands that we all know, Steve Jobs, it wouldn't be a marketing presentation if I didn't throw Steve Jobs in there somewhere. We know that he owns the word innovation. We know David Suzuki, a great Canadian example, who owns the environment. And of course Drake, another Canadian example, who owns the brand The Six. So sometimes I think it's easiest to look at what personal branding is by taking a look at what personal branding is not. Personal branding is not just what we have in our briefcase. It's not just our resume, and it's not our elevator speech. It's not our network. It's not what's in our LinkedIn profile. It's not what we can find about ourselves on Google. It's not what we wear. It's not the car we drive. It's not bragging rights. And I'm really going to get into that a little later because personal branding, people shy away from it sometimes because they seem to think it is like it's bragging. It's actually more about listening. And it's certainly not what our office looks like. So let's take a look at what personal branding is. Personal branding is what you stand for, what you stand up for, what your reputation is, your core values, what others say about you, particularly when you're not in the room, and your authentic self. You actually never have to be the plastic version of yourself. So here are some questions for you. If you're wondering, you know, do I need a personal brand? What's this all about? So let's ask yourself these questions. Have you ever stumbled when asked, what do you do? What do you do best? Can you finish this sentence right now? I'm the best person to help you because I can. Fill in that blank. And we're now going to go to a polling question, and we've got two questions for you. Do you have a LinkedIn profile? And do you love your LinkedIn profile?
So I'm going to start with the first one. So do you have a LinkedIn profile? I'll wait a few minutes and share those results, and then I'll move on to the next.
We're waiting for the poll answer here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to share those. So 71% of you say that you do have a LinkedIn profile, and 29% say they do not. I'm going to go on to share the next one, and then we can discuss it. So do you love your LinkedIn profile?
So great to see that so many of you have a LinkedIn profile. And it looks like we're getting some very high rankings that not many of you love your LinkedIn profile. We hope we can change that, because if you're connected to your personal brand, you're going to understand a lot easier how to write a LinkedIn profile that you actually love. Because, fortunately, it's your job to communicate your highest value. No one is ever going to do that for you or do it as well as you can. So it's your job to communicate your highest value. And we're going to be talking today about how to reach your highest value. Now, when we look at any brand, whether we're talking about the brands that surround us today or our own personal brands, there we go, we have one aspect of a brand that's most essential, and that is clarity. If we can be clear about our brand, we stand to be one of the most powerful brands in the world. It only comes down to doing one thing. So why is it so difficult to be so clear? And I honestly hate to bring this up, but it's such a good example. If we look at what happened south of the border in the election, the brand that was the clearest won. It might not have been saying the message we wanted to hear. It might not even be the best product. but it actually was consistently the most clear. So if clarity is all it takes for us to create brands and to create personal brands, why is it so hard for us to be heard? Let's take a look at what can railroad our brand. We have 3 primary threats to communications. So how we communicate our brand is essential. And let's take a look at what those threats are. The first one is distraction. You can let us know on the chat line if anyone has quite ever felt like this. Everything coming at you in all different directions. Interestingly enough, others that you interact with also feel the same way. Quite literally, our brains could not take it anymore. So our brains do what every animal does, and we adapted. It's quite frightening to think that 100 years ago, we had a 20-minute attention span. Now, we have the same attention span as a goldfish, which is 9 seconds. So if we cannot captivate someone with our message in 9 seconds, we're pretty much toast. And if we can't communicate our highest value in that 9 seconds, we're burnt toast. Let's take a look at how important communication is. Oh, just one last line, sorry. We all know that we can't connect with a distracted audience, and that is very difficult for us in this day and age. This quote really struck me. 50% of the difference between low-performing teams and high-performing teams is the quality of communication. Let us know on the chat line if you agree with that. I think certainly I have definitely seen that. Communication these days is the driving force behind every single business. And let me re-qualify that by saying compelling communication. If you want to influence decision makers, if you want to influence clients, you need compelling communication. So let's look at our second threat to communication, and that is competition. Being the best doesn't matter. That might be hard to accept. But being the best doesn't matter if no one can hear us, if no one can see us, and if no one can experience us. We've been brought up with the notion that we just have to try harder to be better. We just need to have the better resume, score better than everyone else on a test, run faster than anyone else, whatever the case may be. But the fact is, better is not better. Better is temporary. There is always someone faster, cheaper, smarter. And the credit unions have seen this firsthand. You know that you can have lower fees for maybe a month before someone else has the same lower fees. You can have better technology for likely even less time than that before someone else has even better technology. You become the hamster on the wheel, and an exhausted hamster at that. Different is better than better. When you differentiate yourself, you become the go-to person for that category, position, or task. Different does not ask you to be someone you are not. It highlights the traits you already have within you. Interestingly enough, standing out is the least risky of all the options and the easiest to do because no one else is you. This sometimes goes against the grain of what we would naturally think. If you're in a situation, perhaps a credit union has merged, perhaps your own credit union is in transition, perhaps there's different teams being developed, our natural reaction can be to retreat, to not want to stand out, to not want to draw too much attention to ourselves. But it's actually safer in those moments to stand out and to let people know how you are different, that different is better than better. Our second threat to communication is commoditization. So it may be a bit of an odd term to apply to our personal brand, But when we really think about it, what commoditization means is that we no longer feel unique. We feel replaceable. We feel we are at our most vulnerable. That's not a good place to feel. We don't stand out, and our unique, one-of-a-kind self becomes very generic. So to avoid becoming a commodity, focus on how you solve different kinds of problems and create certain kinds of opportunities. When we're a commodity, we're just like, let me think of an example of a commodity. A toothpick would be a good example of a commodity. We don't really care which toothpick we buy. They're pretty much all the same, and if it's price, we'll pick the one that's cheaper. And this is sometimes how we feel in our own work environments or in our home environments, that we're just kind of blending in. So in order to avoid that, what we really want to do is we want to be the one that is different. And yet most likely our whole lives we've been taught to blend in. So we have a polling question to make sure you're still out there. We've had no googly eyes that say you're glossed over. So just answer this for me. Which threat to communication do you feel the most? So we've got 3 answers for you. Okay, interesting. Overwhelmingly, 84% feel most threatened by distraction. That doesn't surprise me. And we are now, as we move forward, we're going to look at what can triumph. What can triumph over distraction is communicating our distinct value clearly. So again, we come back to what clarity is all about. And I found this quote really interesting just to reinforce the importance of that. There we go. Okay. 85% of, 85% of financial success is due to personality and ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. Shockingly, only 15% is due to technical knowledge. So having a good sense of our personal brand is going to get us a lot farther than our technical knowledge, which is a bit surprising. So in order to really get at what is our highest value, I want you to start doing a little exercise. You can do it at your desk. I want you to think about when you are in the zone, when you're feeling alive, energized, focused. Identify an event maybe where you're at your best. These events can be something that happened in a moment or spanned over a period of time. They were the most memorable and meaningful of events for you. So think of some of those things that I'm just going to give you just a little minute here to just jot down some things where you really feel you're in the zone. And you can come back to this exercise after the webinar, but it just gives you an idea to think about the tasks that allow you to be your absolute best, what you are naturally best at. So now we're going to do the opposite. And we're going to look at when we're feeling dragged down. What kind of tasks drag you down? They don't bring you success. They exhaust you. You feel trapped. Just take a minute and just think about a few things that really drag you down. So with the tasks that drag you down, it doesn't really matter how much time and effort you put into getting better at them. You're only ever going to be marginally better. I will never be an accountant. No one will ever want me to be an accountant.
I'm right there with you.
And Amy's joining me, and I'm sitting beside an accountant. So no matter what kind of training, what kind of education, how hard I worked at it, I'm only going to get marginally better. But if I look at what I'm really good at, and I put a lot of effort and education and training into what I'm really good at, I'm going to become immensely better at it. So the return on investment is to get better at what you're good at. Now, we always are going to have some tasks in our jobs and in our lives that drag us down. But when they start to tip the scale into being the majority, we know that we are not in a position to be adding our highest value. Employees are most successful when companies don't ask you to change who you are, but instead support you in becoming more of who you are naturally and at your best. Another very fun part of the workshop in August was when we acted like true marketers and created our own tagline to go with our brand. This was also done in combination with results of the assessment that was completed. But we're going to jump into it a little bit today. It sounds a bit intimidating to come up with your own tagline. And don't worry, you don't have to put it on a billboard or on a t-shirt. But I think it'll look really cool on a t-shirt. So if we look at why marketers use a tagline, it's to further describe the value proposition for that company. It's to further describe their highest value and why you would choose them. So when we look at personal branding from a marketing perspective, which is what we're doing, we also can have a tagline. So a lot of times people think that a tagline is kind of marketing genius, and sometimes it is. But there actually is a formula for it. And when we think of a tagline, it's just a very short phrase that describes two things: how you are different and what you do best. So we've talked about why different is better and why doing what we're the best at is the most important. So I'm going to show you some examples of some taglines. So mine is a sparkling clarity that changes the game. I cheated a little bit. It was only supposed to be 2 or 3 words. I have a hard time being restricted by 2 or 3 words because I love words so much. So I feel that it's my job to bring sparkling clarity that's going to change the game. Justin, who works with Historico, his tagline is gritty and driven explorer. The gritty aspect, he'll get through thick and thin. Driven, and he's always exploring new opportunities. Another participant has the tagline of dynamic leadership. And if you knew Sarah, you would know that that fits her to an absolute T. Deborah, also a participant, her tagline is spirited tenacity. There is nothing that will get away from Deborah. And she has, the spirit behind it is really what sets her apart to be like no one else. Now, you may recognize some of these friendly faces. This is a shot from the SYL workshop in August. And at this time, although you can't see them, they were all holding up their fresh, brand new taglines. And I am going to ask, Ashley is going to unmute some of our participants and have them share their taglines and how they applied them.
Unmuted.
I've unmuted all your phones. If you would like to share your tagline, you're definitely welcome to. I'll put it ready to share as the first one. Amy, do you remember yours? Do you want to share?
I am a dynamic and inclusive catalyst.
Love that.
Anyone else to share?
Come on, brave one.
Don't you have them at your desk, you guys?
Actually, Amy has hers taped up on her desk. I was so impressed with that.
I do as well, and that's where it sits, so that's why I can't remember mine exactly. Anyone else?
Morgan here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Mine was innovative and energizing ambassador.
Love that.
Innovative, energizing ambassador. Really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Anyone else want to be brave?
If you don't want to share your tagline, we could also share maybe what you've done with your tagline since then. Is it at your desk?
I'll share my tagline.
Sure, go for it.
I'm from Connexus. My tagline is Operation Leader.
Awesome.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to mute you all again, but feel free to share your tagline that you created or how you've used it in the chat function.
Muted.
That sort of gives you an idea of, we went through kind of a unique process to get to our taglines and to talk about what adjectives and nouns we use, but you can get an idea that people created each of their taglines. And when we have a tagline and we've created our personal brand, we also want to look like, okay, now that we have it, what on earth do we do with it? The first place we can apply our tagline is your LinkedIn profile. So think about some of the things we've said today. Think about how your LinkedIn profile might change if you were really concentrating on writing about what makes you different. Not what makes you better, what makes you different. There is no one else like you. How would your LinkedIn profile change? What kind of words would you use? The other ways, there are numerous other ways we can apply our brand. Think about the emails that you write. Every single email that you write, challenge yourself. Does this meet my brand? When I send an email, I read it back and I say, does this bring sparkling clarity that changes the game? No, it sounds really dull. I need to be on brand and relook at how my email sounds and is written. It also really affects how I do presentations. It challenges me in how I do presentations or how I might behave in a meeting. I've gotten in the habit of, before I walk into a meeting or before I do this presentation, I say to myself, I want to bring sparkling clarity that changes the game. And I sometimes find in my work I might really be struggling on something. And I'll go back and I ask myself, well, what am I not doing? Am I not bringing clarity? Am I not changing the game? And usually there's something that stands out that I'm not doing, and I can go back and work it through. Now sometimes I really struggled and struggled and struggled with a project and felt like I was applying my brand, and I just couldn't find the answers. That may be an indication that my brand is not aligned with the work that I was trying to do. And that is also a possibility, but hopefully not too many. So again, please share in the chat line ways that you think you could use a personal brand and how it might change what you do.
We have a question, and I'm going to summarize it, and it's, do you think taglines change over time?
Oh, I love that question. Yes, absolutely, I think they change over time within a certain realm. So you would never, my tagline might change based on a new level of confidence, for example, or a new emphasis. But I wouldn't be able to change out of my category. So, for example, I'm very passion-oriented. I'm very relationship-oriented. That likely is not going to change. Like I said, I can't become an accountant tomorrow. But my tagline can be tweaked as I grow and as I change and as I experience different experiences. And that's true in business too. Although we like to be consistent with most corporations with their taglines, we sometimes need to tweak them because sometimes they're no longer relevant. So test your tagline, polish your tagline, and if you need to, adjust your tagline. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So how do we apply our brands collectively to our work? We had some really interesting experiences at the workshop where we asked the participants, what do you think are some of the biggest issues facing the credit unions today? And we broke up into groups and looked at not only the situations, but how our brand, how our personal brand could affect those large issues. And we each have a different perspective, which is what is so intriguing. We were each different archetypes based on the assessment, and so we had a certain pattern of responding to opportunities and challenges. And what it did was show that when we bring our highest value, each of us uniquely, to the table, any kind of problems can be solved and opportunities can be found. So there are ways to collectively apply your brand to your work. This was also a fun exercise that we did at the workshop. And I'd like you to just take down this website. It's called futureme.org. And after this presentation today, I want you to go on to futureme.org and make a commitment to yourself. So what it is it's going to send you an email to yourself in a month's time, or you can choose the length of time. I think a month is the minimum. And I want you to send what you think your tagline is today to yourself. And in a month, that little email is going to pop into your inbox and be a nice little reminder to say, oh yeah, I remember listening to that webinar. Is it affecting my life? Is it changing anything to work on creating and strengthening my personal brand? So I hope you'll jot that down and have some fun with that. And if you take anything away from today, I hope you'll also remember that the greatest value you can add is to become more of yourself. You don't have to become someone different. The world is actually waiting for you to be more of you. And when we're not more of ourselves, that's often when we are not most true, we are not aligned, and we don't achieve the success that we hope for. So look at your personal brand. Your personal brand is something you have with you forever. It won't matter where you work. It won't matter what department you're in. You take your personal brand everywhere you go. And unlike what a lot of people think personal branding is when they think it's bragging, it's actually the opposite of bragging, because it's saying, here's how I can help. So if you're sitting around a board table or you're sitting across from a client, when you're in line with your personal brand, you're listening intently, and then you are able to respond by saying, here's how I can help because this is what I do best. So when you have experiences in transition or at any time of your life and every day of your life, are you around that table, whether it's at home or at work, putting up your hand saying, this is how I can help because this is what I do best? And that really concludes our presentation for today. I'd love to open it up to more questions. And of course, I'm always would love for you to learn more about developing your personal brand. You can contact me anytime at Janet@TheStoryCo. And I'm going to just see, do we have any questions on the chat line?
We don't yet, but I am going to open up the call to, I'm going to unmute you all.
Unmuted.
If you do have any questions. As we're waiting for it to come in. Yes, go ahead. Hello?
Nope, they just left.
Okay. So as we're waiting for questions to come in, if there are any, I just want to share that Janet has been wonderful to provide the stuff for today. She also has said that she can help to prepare a bit of a follow-up document for those that attended, and that will kind of give a bit more introduction into the personal branding, as well as some maybe tips and tricks to creating your own tagline. It is about creating it to who you are, but there's some process to do that that we took you through. Unfortunately, on the webinar, we can't take you through the full process, but Janet has offered to do a bit of a follow-up with that. We'll also provide you the link to that assessment, or you can contact Janet to complete. It's called the How to Fascinate assessment, and I must say, as one of the self-assessments I've done of many, it was really neat, and it took a lot from just reading the report and working through the questions. Oh, there is, the assessment's not free. There is a fee to do that, just so you know.
And link with me if you would like to do the assessment. I can get you to the one that will be most beneficial. It's a little bit confusing there. So email me if you are interested in further looking at this assessment. It's also a very cool tool to use with your entire team. You can have everyone do the assessment. We look at what is the brand of your team. And it's pretty exciting and pretty powerful work as you move forward to know whose personal brand is who, and how that adds to the strength of your team and how it directly relates to the goals and objectives of your corporate brand. You are a brand within a brand.
We'll pause for a quick minute here. There was one question by the looks of it.
I don't think it's a question. I think it's just a comment.
Oh yes, thank you, Morgan from Concentra. That she shared that it's the best self-assessment she's ever done.
Yay! Awesome. And what's so interesting about this assessment, I should have mentioned this. So I'm sure some of you have done StrengthsFinder or VIA or DISC or Colors. They're all fabulous assessments, and I encourage you to do every one. What's different about this assessment is it looks at how the world sees you. So what messages are you sending out that the world is seeing? And so that's a completely different perspective than from this is how I see the world. That's what intrigued me about it.
I'll share with the group, actually it's Amy talking. So before the retreat in the summer, our SYL committee was talking and we were having
Muted.
chats, and so we all wanted to guess which character or which assessment that we were determined to be. And I have to say that I guess I must put my personal brand out there a little bit, somewhat well, I guess, because they guessed who I was. So based on the assessment, and I thought that was pretty cool, that somehow I was delivering a personal brand without even knowing how to do it. So it's very self-affirmation.
It's very validating. It's very empowering. I think I don't think I've ever worked with anyone with the assessment that didn't find it just a very empowering experience.
All right, thank you so much, Janet.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take you through as we wrap up here. Feel free to post any questions in the chat. I'll just take you through a little bit of what we're looking forward to in 2017. We're going to offer a second annual retreat in 2017, so stay tuned for details on that. That'll be in the summer of 2017. Also, a few years ago, we hosted what we called the CU Advance Initiative. We plan to offer the same thing, but we're calling it CU Advance 2.0 or SYL Collaboration for the System. So the idea here is that you would be given a system challenge, and we'd have applicants from across the Saskatchewan credit union system, and then you'd be paired up into groups, and you'd have to complete a bit of a business plan or case study on that system challenge, and you would present to a panel of CU experts. So prizes would be given for the best presentations and solutions. And we call it collaboration because it's not necessarily going to be focused on the solutions coming out of it, but we want to allow our community members the opportunity to work with different people across the system that they may not have worked with before. And finally, we'll continue to host our virtual learning sessions. We'll have guest speakers and breakout discussion groups in 2017. And so if there are any specific topics that you're willing to learn, we might even build a little bit more on this personal branding and bring that back into focus next year. So if you do have any questions or suggestions for us as a committee, we would be willing to take them. And just a quick reminder that we again are accepting applications for the committee. Just personally myself, I've been on it for 2 years. I've made a ton of friends across the system, been introduced to a lot of key members in the credit union system nationally and within Saskatchewan. It's been a really neat experience for me, and I would not take it back for any second. So please apply. We need young leaders like you to continue this forward. And finally, just if you do have any follow-up questions, you want to hear more about what we offer, who we are, we have a website. We also are on Twitter, and there's our email address as well. This session will be recorded and shared. We'll be sharing it via our website as well as on the Quniverse. So before I close the lines, is there any questions or comments from the group?
I just want to add in that I think this whole SYL organization, the value add to you as an employee is unbelievable. I think there's just such a value to everything that you do, and to thank the committee for all the hard work they do. And wow, I would love this as an employee.
Pretty cool. And as Darren said, if you didn't see in the chat, he's the only male currently on the group, so please someone help him.
We've had a personal thank you to you, Janet, for the hard work you did for the retreat and this virtual learning session.
Oh, thank you. I love doing it.
Very, very cool. So you'll be hearing from us with a follow-up document on how to create your tagline, as well as looking into completing the assessment. So stay tuned, and again, this will be recorded. We thank you very, very much for your participation today. Thank you for staying on the call and contributing your thoughts. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, everyone.